You can meet Penny and lots of gorgeous plants at the First Austin African Violet Society's 50th anniversary spring show and sale on March 15th and 16th. You can find out more at zilkergarden.org. I'm joined now by Judy Barrett, best known for Homegrown Texas, and a wonderful website and magazine formerly, and still excellent, and author of a beautiful new book, You Can Grow Roses. A lot of people don't believe that, Judy. Why?
A lot of people have bad experiences with roses, and they hear bad stories about roses.
Bad stories about roses?
Yeah, roses have a bad rap. Everybody thinks they're hard to grow. They have to be sprayed with toxic waste on a regular basis.
I have a regular supply of that.
Yeah, I know. Well, everybody does. But yeah, the roses are easy to grow if you pick the right ones and you plant them in the right spot.
Right. Well, we're going to be telling some truths and debunking some myths about roses as we go through the interview. But I do want to say congratulations on the book. Beautiful book, very useful for people who love roses. So
well,
I'm excited for you and excited for us as gardeners. So let's talk about some of the challenges and myths. And we've been living with some pretty wacky weather here in Texas for the past few years, especially when it comes to drought. How do roses fare in drought?
Well, roses do all right in drought. Again, if you pick the right roses, that's really the secret of success. So many of us start out with fabulous hybrid tea roses that look great in pictures, that look great on packages, that look great in northern magazines, but that really won't live here for any length of time. And you'll get depressed with having failure after failure. We're lucky that we have old rose growers in Texas who have brought back the old varieties that are tough.
Right.
And so we can find those, and now rose breeders are developing roses that have the characteristics of the old roses.
Right.
And so they're also great choices.
There are innumerable choices, really. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds that you can choose from here. So it's not rocket science here.
It's not. You know, you have to know which ones like heat and which ones like cold.
Right.
That's kind of basic.
Right.
Even though we might have 3 cold days a year, we don't want roses that like cold.
Right.
And it's easy to do if you talk to the right people. Talk to the local nursery people.
Exactly. Right.
There are lots of rose options at the big box stores, but pretty much they're going to disappoint.
Well, it's always better to buy local, I think, because typically you're buying from a gardener.
That's right. That's right. And you're buying from people who want to sell you plants that will make you happy and that will live for years, not that will die next month.
Exactly. Well, another myth that we've already touched on this is the fact that a lot of people think you need to arsenal up with all these chemicals and supplies if you have a rose.
One of the problems with roses is the blossoms are very delicate looking. They look like fragile things. And so you think, well, maybe the plant is the fragile thing and you have to protect it from bugs and oh, Lord knows what else. But in fact, the bushes themselves are very hardy.
Yeah.
They don't need any kind of spraying unless you spray them with seaweed or fish emulsion or something natural to help them grow. All that stuff about having to spray your roses is just a bunch of bunk.
You know, I have one rose in my garden currently. It's in a container. It's a Marie Pavier. It's a great little old-fashioned rose, hardy and tough as nails. I've never sprayed it with anything.
No.
I've had it for many years.
Right. Well, I have dozens of roses in my garden, some in pots, some in the ground. I have a hard time not bringing roses home when I go to some place that has roses.
Right.
And some are waiting to be put someplace. None of them have ever been sprayed.
Right. Well, there you go. So note that as among the myths. Another interesting myth having to do with roses is that they're strictly ornamental. They don't have any kind of food value.
Well, it's interesting. You know, you're probably not going to want rose for dinner every night, but they do have uses in the kitchen. They flavor a lot of things. They use them to flavor medicines. The best use of roses is the hips, which are the seed pods that form after the flower, contain vitamin C. And during World War II, when English couldn't get any vitamin C or citrus, they used rose hips and provided all the children in the country with vitamin C.
Rose hip tea.
Rose hip tea.
There you go.
That's right.
Okay. So they have real value, and you have said that they are used in cooking, and I think I saw a recipe in there for using them in honey.
Yeah, you can flavor honey or sugar with them, and then it adds that little scent flavor. It's, you know, it's hard to distinguish between the scent and the flavor of roses.
Sure, right.
But add it to your tea or to desserts, and it's great.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about some myths. Now let's talk about some truths. So, you know, you mentioned selecting the right variety is critically important, and let's elevate that to the number one truth, right?
I think that's true. I think if you pick the right rose to start with, your chances of success skyrocket.
All right. Well, picking the right location as well.
Picking the right location, you got to have sun. People say, well, can't you get me a rose that'll grow in the shade? Well, sure, but it won't bloom. And what's the point?
Right.
Roses need sunshine, they need air circulation. And those are the two keys of planting them. You can make the soil better, you can water them if it's really dry, but you can't make sunshine. So you got to put them in the sun to start with.
Okay, but then at least 6 hours, preferably 8.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing. They think, oh, these delicate little blossoms, the sun will burn them up. Well, no, you can't get too much sun.
Okay, good to know that. And you know, another thing that people used to do with roses is just kind of segregate them into their own special beds, you know, and put borders around them or something. But they really do beautifully interplanted with other things.
Sure, roses are herbs, and like other herbs, they don't need to be segregated. They do well with other plants. They're great with onions, garlic. These are good companion plants to keep the bugs off your roses. You can plant them in perennial beds. You can plant them in pots and mix them up with other plants. So, you know, if you've got sun, you need some roses.
Okay. Well, pruning and fertilizing roses, there's kind of an easy way to remember when to do that. I always think of Valentine's Day.
That's right. That's right.
And again, this is an easy thing to do for most of the species we're talking about.
That's right. The old roses, we've all read articles about when you prune your roses, count down 13 leaf nodes and snip it below the whatever. Old roses, you just whack them down. At the Antique Rose Emporium, they use electric hedge trimmers, and that works great. Just cut them to the height you want them to be. If there are broken branches, cut those out. If they're just fine the way they are,
just leave them as they are.
Just leave them as they are. Snip off a little end just to get them going.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a little snippet.
I have a few that really aim to take over the world. And so them I have to cut back. And I cut them back 2 or 3 times a year. You don't just have to do it at Valentine's Day. Anytime they get out of control, you can whack them back.
Right. Well, another truth is that we've referenced this in part already by talking about their durability during drought, but they do well, it seems to me, with really good deep waterings, but it doesn't have to be that frequent.
No, it doesn't. And if you take a little time when you plant them, add a little compost to the dirt where they start growing, they will reach out and get a good root growth. If you put mulch on top of the soil, that will keep the weeds from competing for water and keep the soil relatively moist.
Okay.
And I don't water hardly any.
Well, real briefly, bare root or container? Because people are going to be seeing a lot of bare root plants here.
There are a lot of bare root plants, and most of them are hybrid teas. Most of them are grafted. What we want is plants that grow on their own roots.
All right. Well, it's simple as that. Judy, again, terrific book. Thank you so much for being here. And coming up next is our friend Daphne. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to homegrountexas.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.